Hey everyone. So I know there's been a lot of confusion on how to do this assignment. So we're going to go over it real quick. So pay attention and follow along, all right? First things first, this first part is the I will be able to. Now, if you go to your slide deck right here that is attached, you'll see that the first slide right here will tell you what you're going to be doing at the end of class. So go ahead and copy that down. You're going to describe how the geography of the Arabian Peninsula contributed to its growth as a trading center in the post-classical era. All right. So, sorry about that. So going back, so right here, so you enter that here using the slide. All right. When you get down here, okay, we have the vocabulary word which we're focusing on today, or this week I should say, which is cultural contact. Okay, cultural contact is when two different societies meet and begin to exchange goods, arts, values, knowledge, and ideas. All right, what are the two cultures that are contacting each other in this image? Well, if you read this caption over here, right here, if you read that caption, it will tell you the two countries that are meeting. Okay, so for this one, this would be, you have the Prime Minister or the President of Burundi, or Africa. You can write Africa. So you can write Africa, and then you can write India. So Africa and India are the two cultures that, I spelled cultures wrong. Cultures that are contacting each other in this image. Alright. Then the next paragraph, or the next question, says, what was the main reason these two cultures came together? Okay, once again, you're going to read this caption, and this caption will tell you why they wanted to meet. Alright? And then the third one says, what might these two leaders learn about each other's cultures as they continue to meet and talk? So as they continue to meet, remember, cultural contact just focuses on what can a country offer to you as another country so that you can trade. So for example, if I'm a country in Africa and I have coffee and another country has sugar, I would want to trade with that other country, because we don't make sugar, we only have coffee, and the other country only makes sugar but they don't have coffee, and so we would want to trade and have a cultural contact with each other. So that's just an example. Other examples of cultural contact are the Olympics, right? When other countries come together and they meet and exchange through sports. You have boxing, when you have other countries that meet. All right, you have all kinds of examples. Food, people exchange food. So cultural contact is more like an exchange of ideas between two other cultures. Okay. All right. So this one you can use your imagination. Why might they want to continue and meet? Maybe they want to expand on some land. All right. All right. So this timeline, you don't have to do anything on this timeline. Pretty much this timeline is all it's saying is that this is the classical period from 800 BCE. BCE just means before the Common Era. So you might want to write that down somewhere if you ever get stuck with the BCE, which means before Common Era, and you have CE, which means Common Era. So this is the classical period. Once this dot right here comes, this is 500 CE, and then we go into the Common Era, and this is what's called the post-classical period. Okay, this is the post-classical period right here. All right, but like I said, there's nothing to do physically for this timeline. Just to show you what period and what time we're in. We're in the post-classical period from 500 CE to 1600 CE. All right. When you get here, this is asking you, what are some examples of different primary sources? Okay, there's a link that will be attached to this Google Classroom that kind of tells you about primary sources, secondary sources, and tertiary sources. All right, use that link that I'll post, that will be posted in your Google Classroom, and find some examples of primary sources. So for example, primary source says from people who have experienced or lived at the same time as the history that they are writing about. Okay, so it says that. So what would be an example? A book. Okay, let's say that I write a book, right? I write a book about what's going on right now. I'm making a video, all right, and I'm making a video and I'm talking about these crazy times we're living in, and this is my story, right? So 30 years from now, when you all open that book and you read about me making this video, that would be my own experience. So you're going to be reading about what I experienced at that time. So that would be a primary source. So an example you can write, it will be book, right? A book straight from the author, like straight from the author. Okay. All right. Like I said, the link attached will tell you how to do this one, and you can write examples for secondary sources and tertiary sources as well. Okay, coming down here. Okay, now we're going to be working on the guiding question. How did the geography of the Arabian Peninsula contribute to its growth as a trading center in the post-classical era? All right, the source right here, you have a pilgrimage to Najd. Okay, this is a first reading, and this is a primary source document because Lady Anne Blunt, which is right here, she's the one whose experience we're going to be reading about. All right, so you want to read this section right here. Okay, a pilgrimage to Najd. Anne Blunt, 1881. Lady Anne Blunt was the first European woman to cross An-Nafud in 1878. In her journal, she described her impressions of this great desert in detail. Okay, so that's the source. You know, as you're reading, you want to annotate each paragraph, and you want to annotate and you want to put your annotations on the right side. Okay, so for example, well, first of all, first things first, we need to go by the steps. All right, first step right here is reading the central idea. The central idea says, how did the geography of the Arabian Peninsula contribute to its growth as a trading center in the post-classical era? All right, so you want to read that. So now we know what to look for. We want to know how the geography of the Arabian Peninsula, how did it contribute to its growth as a trading center? So while we're reading and annotating, we want to annotate things in this article that relate to this central idea. Okay, so let's start. So the abundance of water obtainable from the wells along the road extending 300 miles from Syria into Arabia on the way to Najd points out that Wadi Sirhan was the natural road of northern Arabia, and such it must have been from the earliest times. Okay, so all right, let's keep reading. This first sentence right here, this whole paragraph is very important, and I'll tell you why it isn't. So you can highlight that. Go to your highlight right here. You could choose any color. You could choose yellow. Let's just choose yellow. All right. And then we want to put that in our own words. So whatever you highlight, you want to put it in your own words. So going back to the central idea, talking about geography. What are some things that made the peninsula abundant? What is some things that made it a trading center? Well, they had water. They had an abundance of water from the wells. Okay, and it extended 300 miles. So we could say in our own words, all right, water water was overflowing on the continent and spread 300 miles. Awesome, let's keep reading. Villages existed on the road at intervals from Ezrak to Jof. At present, the wells of these villages are the only remains, except the twin oases, a natural water supply, in a dry area, cities of Kaf and Ithri. They still have life because of the salt lakes which supply them with an article of trade. Jof and Meskake are still flourishing towns, with small populations near other small towns of the Jof oasis. Okay, so now over here it's talking about oasis. They had a natural water supply. All right, so at present the wells of these villages are the only remains, except the twin oases. So this is an important part we can highlight as well. Okay. All right, so it says we highlighted this part because it talked about natural water supply in a dry area. Okay, so we can say water could be found in dry areas around the peninsula. Okay, finally, the last paragraph. It is a great mistake to suppose the Nafud desert is barren. All right. Anytime you see a word after it with parentheses, it means that's what that previous word means. So the Nafud desert is barren, which means there's no life. The Nafud desert is barren. The Nafud, on the contrary, is better wooded and richer in pasture than any part of the desert we have passed since leaving Damascus in Syria. It is tufted all over with gada bushes and bushes of another kind called yurta. All right, so this is pretty much saying that the Nafud has more lush, more greenery, more chance to grow stuff, right? So right here it says the Nafud, on the contrary, is better wooded and richer in pasture than any part of the desert we have passed since leaving Damascus and Syria. So you can highlight that one. All right, and then annotating it on the side, we could put the Nafud had better chances to grow crops. All right. Once again, we're putting that in our own words. Okay, the Nafud is better wooded and richer in the pasture. Okay, so once you do that, now we're ready to answer the central idea. The central idea once again says, how did the geography of the Arabian Peninsula contribute to its growth as a trading center in the post-classical era? Okay, so we first want to start off by writing according to. Okay, so who is this according to? Well, we go back to the source at the top right here. Okay, according to, who wrote this, y'all? Anne Blunt, right? All right, I'm going to highlight that because we want to know who wrote that. So according to Anne Blunt, okay, now with all my annotations, these are all of my own words, so I can copy my own words because I annotated it, right? I annotated it, so I'm going to click copy, paste. Okay, I'm going to fix this up. All right, make sure that I have my capitalized words after each period. I'm going to bring this up here. Very good. And then I'm going to end it with the document. That's the document sign, document A, because this is document A. Or you can write source A at the end, period. All right, so my final answer is, according to Anne Blunt, water was overflowing on the continent and spread 300 miles. Water could be found in dry areas across the peninsula. The Nafud had better chances to grow crops. Doc A. And this is how you do this assignment.